Hi, you're watching Vantage Point, and it's near the end of the year, and we like to recap back over to 2010, and sustainability is a big factor being discussed, and I would like to link that in this episode today to saving wild tigers. You know, there's a very big issue now confronting us. It's about sustainability and flora and fauna, but where tigers are concerned, it's even more pressing. We're driving this majestic creature to extinction. They are on the brink of extinction in a lot of people's mind. So I have today with me Dr. Dionysius Sharma, CEO and Executive Director of WWF Malaysia, and I have Pauline with me, Joint Traffic and WWF Tiger Trade Program Manager. So I guess the experts are here, but before that, I have personally been involved in broadcasting and journalism in following the tiger story. And I remember this man-eating tiger case in Perak. And at first, we thought the tiger was bad. No, it was killing people, leaving somebody being eaten in half and found the body is very gruesome. But during the post-mortem, our cameras were there, our journalists were there, and we found out that half of its face were blown away by buckshot by poachers, and the front leg, the bone was splintered into two, and one of the splinter was pushing out and jutting out because it was sharp. So the tiger obviously cannot behave in the normal routine anymore and had to go for humans, the easiest prey. So if we take that and put it into a bigger picture, loss of habitat and poaching, there's a lot of problems underlying the issue. But if I can go back to the end of last month, for the first time ever, a tiger summit in St. Petersburg, Russia. Dato', you were there. Maybe you can share with us this new awareness and consciousness and even political will to make a difference as far as tiger is concerned.
Yes, so excellent. I'd like to suggest that this is really a renewed awareness and a renewed interest. It is not necessarily a new awareness, but it's a renewed one, because I think the call to save such charismatic animals that have survived evolution, all these big majestic beasts, the elephants of today compared to the mammoths of before, the tigers of today, looking at the saber-toothed tigers of before, we have basically today the luxury of enjoying all these creatures on the planet. But unfortunately, in our endeavors to develop the planet, in our endeavors to develop our own homeland, our own country here, Malaysia, we sometimes are a bit careless on appreciating the values that these animals actually bring to us. We appreciate little about the roles they play in keeping the ecosystems intact. And so, over a year and a half or about 2 years, there has been that renewed interest in saying, hang on, why are our tiger numbers declining worldwide across its range, 13 countries today? And so there was a big momentum being built up. Technical people got together from the various governments, and eventually ministers got together, and the culmination was the leadership of Russia, Putin himself, inviting all heads of government to go to Russia at St. Petersburg, based on all that work that has been put together, to finally solicit and secure that commitment across all tiger range states, the need to appreciate what we have been doing to the tigers, the need to then acknowledge that we cannot let this carry on, and then to make firm and make that commitment our endeavors to stem that decline in global tiger numbers, and in fact to try to double tiger numbers by the next year of the tiger in the year 2022. And that really has been the summit, the climax of getting that political will right there at St. Petersburg via a declaration to say, here we, the heads of government, duly acknowledge what's happening, and we now recognize the need for us to put our heads together and sort this problem that is facing the tigers. And if at all, let us be remembered to be that generation that took the tiger away from the brink of extinction to become an extant animal.
Can we walk the talk? Is that
I think we can. I think we can, and I think we have no choice, because we must. Tiger actually symbolizes the health of an ecosystem. If you look at what the tiger does, how it interacts with its prey, how tigers give reasons for us to keep forests as forests, and how the forest sucks in the CO2, throws out the oxygen, provides water for humanity, then I think we need to put that value back onto the tiger in that it is giving us reasons to carry on enjoying the ecosystem services that humanity depends upon. Oxygen and water, for example.
Yeah. It's good to know that efforts, political will especially, that has been questioned over the years, whether it's there or not. But humans are also responsible for the other side. The killing of tigers are because of what humans want. Or they don't even need it, but they want it. You know, it's not even a trophy on the wall. It's supposedly to help your libido and whatever else. Perception or truth is another thing. But at the cost of killing tigers into extinction. So I'll have to go to Pauline now and look at the demand for tiger, whether live or dead, or the parts of it. And I know there was this decade-long findings of traffic recently. You know, if you can share with us more on that.
Yes, well, we all know that tiger trade is a problem. We know it because we see in the news that tiger parts are being seized by enforcement agencies. We see a tiger cub being smuggled across the border in a suitcase just recently in Thailand. So we know it's a problem, but we didn't really know how big the problem is. No one really has that grasp. So what we did to get a better idea about the magnitude of the problem and the dynamics of tiger trade is that we collected information about seizures in all the tiger range countries and analyzed them to see where tigers are being killed, where the tiger trade routes are, where they're being smuggled, and where the markets are and why they are being killed. And we found information about seizures in 11 countries in 10 years' time, nearly 500 seizures. And what we did, we extrapolated the items found in those seizures to actual numbers of tigers being killed. So what we found is that a minimum of 1,067 tigers were killed for those shipments alone. And I think that in itself is shocking, isn't it? I think everyone was shocked when we came out with those numbers. But what is even more shocking is that this is just a fraction of the actual numbers of tigers being killed. Because normally, with any kind of illegal trade, if enforcement agencies find a shipment, you can bet that they miss 10 or maybe more. So in actual fact, it's thousands and thousands of tigers that have been killed in the last 10 years. And if you know that we've got about 3,200 tigers left, maximum, you can see that if we continue this way, we're just going to lose the tiger.
Very fast.
Very fast.
We had, what, 100,000 tigers at the turn of the century, last century? Yeah, now it's just about 3,000 left. So I have to go for the first commercial break. But once we are back, let's look deeper into that in terms of can we really hold on to the numbers of tigers that we have now, this 3,200. Hopefully it's that amount, not lesser. But can we hold on to it? There's a lot of issues involved. There's enforcement, there's punishment. I heard that in Russia it's just about 200 to 300 US dollars per month for the officers who's going to enforce all these rules and regulations that you have. Even in Kenya, it might be much, much lesser than that. And they are facing deaths because the poachers will even kill the officers involved if they get in the way for them to get the tigers or elephants or anything else. So in the reality sense, can we really hope to protect and even double it? What can we do? That we'll discuss after this short break. There's less than 3,200 tigers left all over the world. And if we don't do something now, we're not going to see that number increasing. In fact, it might just vanish altogether. So what are we going to do about it? That's why I'm going to ask the next question. How do we maintain this number? It's tough in Malaysia, it's tough in India, it's even tougher in certain other parts of the world. So without international collaboration and partnership on this, we can't expect for a very remote area of India to really have electric fencing, satellite surveillance, and GPS tracking, for example. But if we come together, we see this as World Heritage. Was that one of the key points in Petersburg?
In fact, it was. Interesting you asked because, like I said, it took a while for the governments to get the technical people organized. But the one thing that happened very nicely and in a very systematic manner was every country generated its own National Tiger Conservation Action Plan. So we actually have that in Malaysia, and this is our national document. This document is the one document that spells out a multi-year program as to how the government of Malaysia, through its Wildlife Department and Natural Resource Ministry, working with partners, the various civil society organizations, will take all the right actions. There are actually action plans inside this document. They will take us forward in terms of where we are and where we need to be. Of course, it's our intention to double the numbers. Now, all these documents then culminated into a global tiger recovery program, and this was the program that tells us now, that spells out explicitly all the various actions that we need to take at the local level, but also the ones that go beyond just national boundaries. You talk about the collaboration, the partnerships, looking at the international trade, the networks, the education and awareness, looking at civil society, how can we participate, looking at the ports, entry, exits, because these are all the things that will actually then help us to stem that decline. The challenge really is, having had this, created these national documents and the global tiger recovery program, it really is being able to separate the two. The international actions that require such collaboration, but not at the point where we discard really the local actions that we must be taken. And that really is where we need to see how we can actually walk the talk, so to speak, in our commitments. Yes. Translate that into real actions on the ground. It could be about incentivizing people. It could be about the enforcement personnel, to increase more enforcement personnel. Technology, informer networks, because the real challenge we have today, habitat loss is one thing, and you've mentioned that. It is really the unscrupulous, the irresponsible people that have been incentivized by systems to help them go in, yank individual tigers out, and let those end up in trade, in the black market, and in it's the bones, for the skin, for the meat, or whatever. So these are the irresponsible frontline people that are really causing the damage, where they actually are pulling out tigers from their parks, from the reserves, and the forests, and even not even parks. And so stopping the bleeding. We've set aside areas as protected areas and sanctuaries, but if we don't stop that bleeding of these numbers, we will run into problems. Then doubling the numbers are just mere speak. We won't be able to achieve those numbers. Because in the wild, tigers will take care of themselves. Mother Nature will take care of the tigers. We have to take care of human activity.
That's why I have to go to Pauline. When we mention numbers, we go to Pauline. $50,000 for tigers, it might even be more than that,
I think it's more.
It's very lucrative. I mean, it's just like drugs. The more you try to stop it, the higher the price will go, and it will always drive people to do it. So where do you see us fighting this? Because we can't stem the demand, then it's difficult for us to conserve.
Absolutely. I'm glad you bring up that point, because we're always very much focused on enforcement, making sure those forests are protected, especially Malaysia. I think Malaysia is a very important source country for consumer markets in Vietnam and China. So tigers that are being killed here are trafficked across Southeast Asia to China and Vietnam, although some consumption takes place here as well. We are very focused on enforcement. However, I think enforcement alone is definitely not the solution. We also need to work on reducing demand. So in the Global Tiger Recovery Program, it's a very important aspect of the Global Tiger Recovery Program. And China and Vietnam both have also committed themselves to setting up consumer awareness campaigns to make consumers aware of what they're doing when they're consuming tiger products.
If I can cut you there a bit,
there's
this perception that the authorities of China and Vietnam not doing much. But we've heard how they are also clamping down on this. If you can clarify that for us.
Yeah. Especially China. China is key in making sure that we turn the tide for tigers, because, well, China is an important market, as we all know. And the very hopeful thing, I believe, in this Year of the Tiger at the Global Tiger Summit is that China made a really strong speech through its Prime Minister, Vantage Point, saying that we're all responsible for clamping down on illegal tiger trade and for stopping the consumption of tigers. And China is very serious about stopping this. And That's hopeful. I think that's very hopeful. If China can do this the way they've done it for the panda, then I think there's hope for tigers.
These are very strategic network of black market, if we can call it. You know, they know how to export it, they know how to import it, they even know how to find client under the radar.
Yeah.
So the only way to bust this is like fighting the drug cartels. But for the drugs cartel, it's easier to get commitment, resources to back that up because people see the impact of drugs on people. But maybe for tigers, it's going to take a few more steps. Do you see that as a problem?
I think that's one of the main issues actually in fighting wildlife crime, is that up till now it hasn't been taken as seriously as other types of organized crime have been taken seriously. But yeah, so there are some steps needed to really make sure that we get the same resources for fighting wildlife crime that we have for drugs and weapons and human trafficking, for example. So that's something we need to continually be advocating for.
I heard that trafficking in wildlife is more lucrative than drugs. Ratio to ratio comparison. When I was reading about Anson Wong and all that, you know, I even had the interview with the person who wrote the book Lizard King. He said in certain sectors and areas, according to time and demand, wildlife is way more lucrative. And the best thing is, for the illegal traffickers, even if you get caught, you get out in what, a few years' time, you know, you won't get hanged or shot or anything like that. So the rewards are lucrative, the punishment is not as much. So these two combination, you know, allows more people to be driven into the trade of trafficking wildlife, for example. So if we go back to the punishment side, now that we have more political will, maybe we can hope for new acts to be enacted in countries across the world that will increase the punishment for anything regarding wildlife.
In fact, this is ongoing work. Interesting you mentioned, because many countries, at least for tigers, have come to the point where that realization has gone to a certain critical level. It's now translating to the need to then take action. So in Malaysia, as we all may know, it's already common knowledge now that we've been working on trying to revamp our Protection of Wildlife Act 1972. So in Malaysia, we took a multi-year process, which was participated by stakeholders, including the NGOs. It has now culminated in a new law. It's called the Wildlife Conservation Act, and it's going to come into force this year. And inside this act, new act, we see hope, because there are some mandatory, there's some minimum sentences that must be met out, punishment, for people that go against the provisions of the law. And there'll be no two ways in terms of interpretation of the law. It's mandatory, there's a minimum, and it will be dished out for those people that commit those crimes as provided by the law.
Because we saw repeat offenders, you know, it's because they already established the network. Then they came out again, they become active again, somebody else can just take over for a while, and that's how it works in illegal wildlife trafficking. If I link that to reptiles, it's the same thing. So I have to go for the second and last commercial break, but once we are back, I want to go back to the grassroots level. There's so much that enforcement can do and laws can do and governments can do, but the eyes and the ears, the people closest to the subject matter will be the people themselves. So, are you satisfied with the level of awareness? What about advocacy work across? Let's talk about that after this short break. You are still watching Vantage Point, and I have only 6 minutes left. At the end of the day, it's up to the people themselves to do what they can, especially people who are on ground, you know, because they know the changing weather patterns, they know the diminishing forests, they know that the prey that they hunt are the same prey that the tigers would hunt, and they can feel this, they know this. So, but are you satisfied with the level of awareness about protecting the tiger, or even helping to double up numbers, for example? Because if the ordinary laymen are not into this, then what hope do we have? Because it's that one guy who goes shopping, or even a lady that comes across a nice souvenir but it's made from tiger bone, for example. It's not enough to say that I don't want to buy it. He or she must go to the authorities and report that, for example. That will help it that much more. So are you satisfied with the level of awareness?
I'm not.
Okay.
But the good thing is that it's on the increase. I think there's now actually a global campaign called T times 2. Really, it's about trying to double up tiger numbers by the next year of tiger, in the year 2022. And in this campaign, and of course we can log on to the website www.t-2.my. It will give a chance to the Malaysian public to find out the sorts of things they can do. And you're right, it's all about being the eyes, the ears to help support. Find out what's going on around you, look at illegal activities, report about it so action can be taken. But I think, for me, saving the tiger is now no more the responsibility of merely governments. It's not responsibility of just the environmental NGOs. It's our collective responsibility of everyone on this planet. So the governments, the companies, the businesses, the industries, and the people should all come together. And I'm proposing to the Malaysian government to actually set up the Malaysian National Tiger Conservation Trust Fund, where the government can come in and put money, the big companies can come in and put money, but also everybody can contribute whatever little they can to set up a fund, a trust fund that can then actually really spearhead and carry out all the actions we need to carry out in Malaysia to help save tigers.
I personally refuse to believe that people don't care about tigers. If they care about cats, they will care about the big cats.
I agree with you.
It's majestic. So what's stopping them from doing more? Is it knowledge? Is it this is out of my hands? You know, I'm not going to be there in the forest. I don't know any illegal poachers, hence I cannot do anything. Your views on that?
Yeah, that's a good question, because I do get the sense that many people believe that a tiger, yeah, it's beautiful, but it's living somewhere in the forest. Oh, are there tigers in Malaysia? Many people don't even know that there's tigers in Malaysia. So it seems to be a very abstract thing for people, and I think people need to become aware that they are connected with that tiger. Like Dino explained so beautifully, the tiger is the symbol for a healthy ecosystem, and we depend on those healthy ecosystems as well for our oxygen and our water. And besides that, what I believe is that many people should realize that if they eat wild meat in a restaurant, they're eating the tiger's food. So that's a really, really concrete thing people can do to help tigers in this country.
Mm-hmm. If we look at it, this is going a bit philosophical. The human population is growing. We're going to take up more land and more resources of nature, for example, and loss of habitat, you know, and loss of prey as food for the tiger. Where do you see that heading to? Because at the end of the day, you put natural environment against building more condos or highways or whatever infrastructure, flora and fauna is going to lose out. It's very clear on that. And with climate change, it looks bleak on that end.
In fact, I think it's how creative we are going to get in the next years to come to get that central message across. Saving the tiger, it is as much saving the tiger as it is about saving ourselves. Because the tiger is going to give us the reasons to keep forests and ecosystems intact, of which we depend upon.
Do you think ecotourism is one way out? Because there's also a debate about that. Ecotourism, you know, making more money out of conserving forests, flora and fauna.
Ecotourism, I think, can really help nature conservation, but it's not just that alone will save. No, it's one of the tools that need to be used. But basically, like Dino says, we need to get really smart about developing, because yes, you cannot stop development, but you can do it in such a way that there's still room for the forests and for all the creatures living in those forests. And we have to, we simply have no choice.
The best hope lies with the future generation before they curse us for making them lose their supposed heritage. But at the same time, they are also far and detached. How many would have seen a live tiger, for example, out in the wild? So how do you think we can solve that in 1 minute?
I think the real central message is to tell people that tiger is an important creature. It's so important to the point that if we just go past an article, go past a story, go past a visual, and don't care, then the tiger will be lost forever. And we are not supposed to not care. We are supposed to care, because that really is an indicator of a developed mind. It's not just the physical structures, but to come to a state of conscientiousness, to believe that it is our responsibility, moral and other responsibilities, to help save those God-given creatures, then it is our right to express that and to take the actions ourselves.
It's about us. It's about saving humanity too, by saving the tigers. Thank you so much, Pauline. Thank you so much, Dato'. Thanks to you for watching. We'll see you in another episode of Vantage Point soon. Bye-bye.